Rated Gen Z, where real talks get real. Each episode dives deep into the minds of 18 to 24-year-olds, exploring their dreams, struggles, and perspectives that most people never hear. We're diving into the chaos that defines a generation everyone talks about, but nobody actually listens to. This isn't just a podcast. This is a generation speaking. Welcome, Nia. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. We just off camera and off recording, just kind of caught up a little bit, but I don't really know much about you, so this is going to be really cool. I know that you're in Texas,
Yeah,
and I know that you're 24, right?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, but you're a very well accomplished 24-year-old. So I would love to have you kind of give a little bit of intro and background as to who you are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first, so excited to be here. And funny, we just met on LinkedIn, and look, now we're talking. So you gotta love the internet, right?
Yes. One of the positive things about social media.
I know, right? Like, yes, positives can come out of it. But hey, my name is Nia Grant. I am the founder of College Cash Coach, and my mission is to help college students graduate debt free and build wealth. So, a little bit of background about me. I am 24, so I graduated college like 2 years ago, and I just can't believe like I'm almost 25. And I feel like when you're 25, like that's when you really become like an adult. Like you
I
don't have
had
to
my
pay.
first child at 25, just to give you a little bit of context.
I even imagine having a kid right now. Like no. But I can't believe it's been like 2 years, right, since I've graduated. But I went to Clemson University. See my orange in the background, my little degree.
I
So go
love
Tech.
it.
And I won $1 million in scholarships to go to college. And I didn't have to pay to go to school. And while I was in school, I was able to do like a lot of entrepreneurial ventures and really just take advantage of my college experience. So much so that I had a six-figure net worth by the time I graduated, and I bought my house when I graduated. And I'm like, okay, all these things are amazing. But God was like, what are you going to do and how are you going to share this message? And that's where College Cash Coach was born, to really teach other students like it is possible. You don't have to be broke and in college. Like you don't have to be just saddled with debt. Cause I couldn't even imagine having like a $2,000 or $3,000 debt like
Yeah.
every month when you just graduated and like you get your first big check and like almost all of it's gone. So that's really my mission, is to teach students how can you go to college for free, and then how can you manage your money, whether you're a young adult just graduated about to go to college or you're in college. So that's a little bit about me.
That's fantastic. So I don't know if you realize that I'm in the mortgage industry, but I actually just gave my notice last week. My last day's on Tuesday to go all in with what I'm doing with all of this. But I've been in the mortgage industry for 10 years. So you are someone that could definitely be like a brand ambassador in so many ways, because the fact that you're doing what you're doing at such a young age and you're trying to help others, that's absolutely fantastic. And I mean, did you grow up in a situation that you had to have scholarship money in order to be able to afford college, or was it just something that you're like, you know what, if I can have people pay for me to go to school, then why not?
Yeah, it's so funny because I think back to like what 2017 is when I started my senior year. And my both my parents went to college, but my mom won a scholarship to go to school. So when it came for me to go to college, it was kind of like understood, like, hey, we're not paying for it, so you better figure it out.
Okay.
And that was kind of like the methodology where I was. And of course, I feel like socials were not as prominent in the education space. Like these edu influencers were not really a thing in 2017. So me and Google we were locked in. Okay, we were best friends. I was researching all types of scholarships all the time, and guidance counselors. Of course, they're there to help you, but I mean, honestly, they're overworked, right? So
Yeah.
one guidance counselor to like hundreds of students. So you really kind of have to, thug it out by yourself, in lack of better terms. So I did a lot of research to find the scholarships, and a lot of no's. Unfortunately, a lot of no's. But I got
Okay.
okay, and those yeses really amounted up a lot, and that's how I was able to get the scholarship fund. So I didn't say it wasn't really a choice. It was kind of like either you do it, like I don't think there was a
Okay.
figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like for me, I was really fortunate enough to where my college tuition, everything room and board was actually cheaper than my high school tuition. So when I told my parents I wanted to go to UCLA, they were actually like, "Great, it's going to be cheaper for us for you to go to college than high school," because I did go to a private school. So I didn't understand, I didn't know what a student loan was. I didn't know any of that. It wasn't until I got married that my ex had student loans and I was in charge of all the finances because I had really good credit. I was OCD. So he's like, "You go ahead and take over." And I'm like, "Why do we have to pay $240 every month?" He's like, "That's a student loan." And so that was like my first introduction to what it was. I know I was fortunate, but that's when I realized like, oh my gosh, there's people that actually like take out thousands of dollars in loans to go to be like go and get educated. Like
Yeah,
it was a shock to me. And the more I've realized it, it's a thing, right? I mean, my daughter, she actually is on scholarship because she's out of state. And
yeah,
out of state tuition's ridiculous.
yeah. Like how you
Um,
told me, because Clemson was like 50K a year. So it's like over 4 years, that's almost $250,000 to pay for school. And there's, some schools who are like 90K a year times four.
yeah, and that doesn't even include like rent and room, like your food and like just the other expenses. That's just tuition.
It's expensive, very much expensive.
Yeah. So, okay, so you went ahead and had gotten received scholarships for schools, and so you were able to go through the 4 years without paying a dime, basically. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. And I
Okay.
feel like the thing that I really like to talk about to my students is yes, it's good to pay for school, but then even outside of school, like what are we going to do? Because college is only 4 years. So
Yeah.
how are you going to be in a good financial footing after you graduate and continue to, be a successful like adult? Because adulting is not easy. And unfortunately, while college is great, like the quadratic formula will only get you so far. Like you need to
Yeah.
know how do you budget? How do you build credit? How do you save? How do you start to invest? And these are the topics that I talk about really on my platform. So you can really get it like when you're like 18, 19. So that way when you're like 24, 25, and you have like a job and trying to get a 401k and a Roth IRA, you're not super confused. Like, of course, you will always have questions, but you have a little bit more knowledge to help you in the long run.
Yeah, and that's the key too, right? Because everyone's like, "Oh, I'm saving money in college," but they could still be really irresponsible like I was, and I had a credit card my freshman year, not realizing once again APR, finance charges, none of that. All I knew is that I needed to pay at least the minimum and pay it on time, which I did, but I racked up that credit card, not realizing how it was going to affect me. I was lucky that my ex did help me pay that off because I think it was a $7,500, yeah, $7,500 credit limit for a freshman in
Yeah,
college. I mean, it's just unheard of. And I just didn't know. I thought it was free money. So like once again, it's like, "Oh, well, I'm not paying for college, so then I have this credit card." So I think we just like think that everything's going to work out and be okay, like not realizing the reality of the situation. And I was that naive person that just didn't think about it. So I think it's really important that we do have people like yourself that are going, "No, no, like we need
gentle.
to be responsible."
And that's the thing, you don't know what you don't know. So you really can't
Exactly.
never had access, right, to thousands of dollars at their fingertip. So you have to slowly introduce someone to it. You can't just turn the fire hose on automatically. They'll
Yeah. Yeah. And then also just also we kind of live in a world right now that your generation, especially the ones, that are younger in age, really don't feel like homeownership is reality. They feel like not only that, but then they feel like they have to be making, six figures by the time that they're a certain age. Like I think social media has just kind of added this element of pressure and also this element of like doom gloom as well. So, I mean, you're someone that's like a testament to like, no, I was able to do it. And not many people would want to share their secrets or share the wealth in that regard. So, like, what is it about that you really want to give back and you want others to have the same? Like, obviously, that you're coming from a really good place. And I mean, are you just always been someone that's been like that, that's wanting to give back and just a giver?
Yeah, well, I feel like so when I was in college, kind of the same thing. Like you don't know what you don't know. Even
Yeah.
freshman year, I got my first internship right after my first year, and I got that internship after like failing a class, and I had never failed a class before, like in my life, and like checking my email and actually being involved in organizations. And the thing is, if you didn't even check your email, then you may not know that there was this organization that was literally taking on students. They would pay to fly you out. Like, for example, my first internship was with the Department of Energy, and like they flew you to Colorado for like a couple of days. You got to learn more about what they're doing, the type of research that they were doing, and then I, networked with the like the lab person there, and I was able to get an internship. And a lot of times you don't know, like, oh, can I network as a student? Like, how do I talk to an adult as an 18-year-old? Like, how can I kind of be seen as like an equal or a peer? And it's something that it's hard to navigate, but it is possible. And like I said, after I graduated, God was just telling me, like, what are you going to do to share this forward? Because I feel like I gave you all these blessings, but like, how are you going to multiply them? And that's really why I'm so passionate about it. And like, even if you're paying like tens of thousands of dollars, literally hundreds of thousands to go to these schools, you're not getting your full money's worth if you're just going to class and going home. Like,
Mhm.
not at all. So that's why I really try and teach students, you have all these resources at your disposal. Like, use them. Like, you're in a coveted position. Like, you're not going to be a college student forever. Like, a lot of those discounts that I had when I was in college, I don't have them anymore. I'm upset. So like, now that you have them, how can you actually use them to your advantage?
Yeah, yeah, because that's it. I think an important piece of it is like the networking. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing that I have found that your age group, like they do struggle with that because a lot of them were, because there's COVID and then there's just social media in general where you're like, oh, but I'm connecting with all these people online. Like, yeah, but there's a difference between actually getting in front of someone and
Yeah.
having a conversation and learning how to have that be in your favor that I met this person that knows this person that knows that person. It's so I love that you're encompassing so many different aspects to all of it. Like you truly are like like a life coach in a sense. Like, is that how you kind of view yourself too? Like,
Yeah, and I feel like it can be seen as like, okay, all these different things, but like, no, it's how can you be the best student so you can be the best like, student in life. Like that, it's very simple when you think about it like that. So I like to try and simplify things. Like my whole tagline,
okay,
money made easy. It's just helping you understand like it's not that hard, right? I think you're really overthinking it. The same way that you would have a conversation like with your peers, for example, is literally the same way that you can have a conversation with someone who's older than you or different than you. I think that's a very big one. It's like, especially if you go to a college, you're more likely to just, gravitate towards what you're comfortable with. But college
yeah,
is the best time to really get out of that circle because you all have something in common. Like you either went to the school, like I see you in your UCLA jersey. Like
yeah,
how many UCLA students right now would like love to talk to you, but they're kind of like, oh my gosh, she's an adult. Like I don't know what to do. Da, 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 da. But it's like at the same time, you were probably on like the same campus. You walk the same things. So you have similar stories. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so it is possible. You just need to kind of break that barrier.
Yeah, I have found that I do wear a lot of like UCLA stuff or Chargers or just anything on purpose so that people feel like they can say something and come up to me. Like
Mhm.
I'm very intentional about that because usually that's what'll happen. Oh, you went to UCLA, I did too, or oh, I will go up to people that have a Virginia Tech shirt or cap or University of Arizona because both my kids went there. And I love it because it always sparks up this like conversation that you wouldn't otherwise have. Like even
Yeah.
this morning when I was getting my coffee, there were a couple kids there and they had a sweatshirt from a school that I have a mentee that goes to that school. And then I started telling them about what I was doing. And it was really cool having a conversation with these four high schoolers that most people would just avoid, to be
Mhm.
honest, like especially adults. They'd be like, yeah, what do I have to say to them or what do we have in common? And there is so much. So I love that you said that because it really is important to be able to get out of your comfort zone and
Yeah.
have conversations with people.
Yeah, and college is literally the best way to practice because, like you said, it's such a great icebreaker, and so many stories can be shared and be built upon just from that simple icebreaker.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, how is like your process? Because I love that you said student of life, because I think a lot of us kind of forget that like we don't just finish college or graduate school and we're stopped being like a student. We're always a student.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's like always such a good reminder. There's always like little things that people will say, and I'm like, yeah, student of life. That's right. That's the way I need to like approach things. Always learning. So for you, like if someone came to you, if there was a high school student and they're like, I need help, but they don't really know what they need help. And obviously they want scholarship funds, money for school. But like, I'm just curious, like how you work with them. Because,
Yeah.
we do have so many coaches and so many guides. And I don't know, I feel like I want to get deeper into like your way of working with these students.
Let's dive a little deeper. So right now, I love speaking to audiences and to groups because I feel like one on one, especially when you are like a student, it can be harder to like speak if you're not surrounded by other people who want to speak. It's always like, okay, so tell me about yourself. Well, I don't really have anything
Yeah.
about me. Like, no, you do. So maybe it's easier. That's kind of have like positive peer pressure. So I love speaking to different groups and organizations.
Okay.
So I would say if you're a high school student, first of all, definitely ask like your counselor or someone else if they would open to bringing speakers because I feel like speakers can really bring in the energy and really like just bring students awareness because again you don't know what you don't know and a lot of students
Yeah.
don't even know like oh you can win $1 million in scholarship money like you can earn like 40K from internships like while you're in college like what you can buy a house like in college like a lot of students don't know that so you have to give them that exposure and then also I would say my socials I really try and be active on like Instagram, TikTok,
Yeah.
when students are. And now I'm on LinkedIn trying to talk to the other side of that generation. So someone like you who's advocating on like the parent side or the administrative side. So I feel like I'm
Mhm.
trying to bridge that gap in a sense as well of like, okay, well, how can we bring the students' wants and needs to those of their decision makers? And how can you bring the decision makers, their desires onto the students in a way that they will still be able to receive it?
Yeah, I'm going to write this down. I already know who I'm going to introduce you to. Yeah, I'm working with a nonprofit, First Home IQ,
Mm-hmm.
and they are specifically for financial literacy for Gen Z and homeownership. And they've been in the mortgage industry forever. And I'm helping them out a little bit, but I think that you would be such a good asset. So I'm going to put that down because that's the thing is, as I'm talking to you, I'm like, I have obviously been in the industry. There's so many people I can connect you with because yeah, I feel like we need more of you going into classrooms, speaking to groups, for sure. And I know that my generation in the industry is really trying to tap into this and educate more, but you're someone that is like a living example of doing it, so there's like a difference of people that are experts at like, but I feel like the lived experience really at the end of the day makes so much more of an impact and just resonates with people so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know how weird it was, especially with COVID, because I mean, well, luckily, like when it really came strong, like 2020, 2021, those were my sophomore and junior years. So like I still kind of got to have a freshman and senior year of college, but I know like you kind of lost those years and it changed things so much. And I can only imagine like starting college during those years or like being in high school during those times. So I feel like having that, kind of like fear knowledge of again like that icebreaker, like, hey, I get it. I was
Yeah.
there, so let's talk about it and you can be successful and like you said it's just the doom and gloom out there it can be a
Yeah.
lot to take
Really,
in.
it can be so overwhelming, even for someone my age. Like I used to be a homeowner, but I sold my place, moved to California, and can't afford anything in San Diego. And here I'm gonna be 50, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm starting all over again. And being in the industry, I see what's happening, but at the same time, like I don't want that to deter me from, being a homeowner again. Like I know I can do it.
Well,
So,
first off, 50, I don't know like why you're lying on TV
uh,
or on these podcasts because I don't see that.
yeah, 40, yep, 49. I'll be 50
Oh,
this year. Yeah, I mean, my kids are, so I told you I had my first child at 25, so he's going to be 24, and then my daughter's 20. So that's another reason why I am like just really feel strongly about your generation, just because,
yeah.
I also get it just being as a parent, and I also get it being at that age really struggling.
Mhm.
At age 20, I just was struggling a lot. So I can only imagine just the struggles now are just like, woo, just amplified in so many different ways
Yeah.
because of technology and social media and everything. Yeah, like, so are you? right now, like partnering up with people to kind of like collab. I don't know. I feel like you're someone that like you have such a great personality and just what with what you're doing. I would think that like there's so many opportunities for you. So are you like in a position right now that you're starting to like partner up with people and collaborate?
Oh yeah, and that's one reason why when you reach out to me, I'm like, okay, this is perfect because I'm trying to get the story out there, the message out there.
Okay.
I know it's something that's great, and I know a lot of students need it, but now it's like, okay, I need to talk to like the masses.
Okay.
Uh, and kind of same thing that students experience. Like I'm not perfect. Like you want to do all these different things and like you want to have access to all these different things, but it's like, okay, where do I start? Where do I go? And that's why honestly, just having conversations and like will flow, the doors will open as they're supposed to open. Big believer in like, God has a plan, has a path for me. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep talking to people like I like
Yes.
this people and I'm open to partnerships, I'm open to collaborations and what comes will comes and those who need to hear it will hear it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to connect you with some people, but I love that you're open to partnerships and collaborations because I think a lot of times too, we get caught up in like this competition game of like, oh, well, if she's doing that, then and I want to do that, then oh, she's my competition. When really, like, if you guys could come together and support one another, then you have more of an impact. Like I believe in that, so that's why I'm definitely going to do what I can to help you out because yeah, you I more and more people are talking about how important financial literacy is. I mean, it is a form of empowerment, you know. Is if they're like right now, looking back, if they're like, what would be like one of the biggest lessons for you? Because obviously that you're wanting to educate other students and help them out, but I want to know like if there was something that really affected you, impacted you in a way where you're like, okay, this is a huge learning lesson for me.
Where can I start? There's so many. So many. It's funny.
Okay.
I was actually gonna do like a video on this, and I was gonna be like, if I would have done these 5 things in college, I'd be a millionaire by now. I kid you not. But if I just had to like boil it down to one thing, I would say just like learning and trying like as fast as you possibly can. Like for example, you went to UCLA, right?
Yeah.
If I was a student at UCLA right now and I wanted to, increase my financial literacy or like increase my net worth or just my knowledge in general, like I would be reaching out to a lot of different organizations on campus, my alumni, like the alumni network, I feel like it's so untapped. And there are like so many like successful people, like smart people that have come from UCLA. And
Yeah.
obviously they are from any school. Like you have so much pride in your school, you want to get back, you want to know. And a lot of times like they don't need money from you. They just want you to listen and be a listening ear. So I feel like I probably would have started that earlier. I think I did a pretty good job at it. But like if I could go back to college, like day one, like I would be on the ground, just hey, how's it going? My name's Mia. Da, 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 da. Like have your elevator pitch and just share and really network as much as you can. I would have started that a lot earlier.
Okay, no, yeah, I think you should definitely do a video because I think that's what happens too, is that obviously like we're hearing you, you're like, oh, she didn't have to pay for school, she's a homeowner, like all these things, but like people seem to forget that in between all of that, there's probably, failures, some mistakes that you might have made, different choices that you would have made, and like, and I think that's where, the real learning lessons are. So yeah, I would love to have you like do more of that because I think that's where people are going to pick up like, okay, she would have done this. Okay, then I definitely need to do that. Or she messed up on this part. Okay, I did too, but it doesn't mean that it's going to affect me in a negative way necessarily. Uh, yeah,
Oh,
I
for
feel
sure.
like,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
like coming about the scholarships. I told you I won $1 million in scholarships. I lost $20,000. Like I lost a
I
$20,000
saw
scholarship.
that video.
You saw it? Yeah,
I
literally because
did. Yeah.
I had to submit a headshot. Like I had went through like the interview rounds. Like I think I had 2 interview rounds. I wrote the essays. I did everything. But they said you had to have a headshot in by 11:59 p.m. on Friday. You know me, I'm a procrastinator. Like I'm trying to recover from it. Like
I
I'm,
am
I'm trying to
too. I
recover.
am too. Yes.
But literally Monday at like 8 a.m. rolled around and I was like, oh no, I forgot. Like, will you still accept my headshot? And they're like, no. And I was like, dang, that hurt so bad.
Yeah, they're hardcore. Like, because
It's
when my
hard.
daughter was applying, like literally, like they are like if you're 0.01 off of like the GPA, like they're like, sorry, that was the cutoff, like that happened with my daughter. I think she was 0.01 off like something to get an extra like $10,000, you know?
Mm,
And it was just like,
yeah.
oh, there's like, sorry, no exceptions. Like we mean what we mean.
Yeah, I mean it's hard, but like I said, I always say ask the questions, like you said with your daughter, like maybe for that organization they wouldn't allow it, but I've seen where even if you don't meet all the requirements, but you meet some of them, especially if it's a smaller organization, they can be
Yeah.
flexible. Like especially if you explain your situation, like maybe you're just not a good test taker, but you are really smart, you do understand, and you're implementing ABC to improve, but you still want to apply. I still say apply. I still say make the ask, and a lot of time in those in-person connections will go a lot further than you think.
Yeah. No, that is key because I think a lot of times people are just kind of discouraged, like with the first no. You
Yeah,
know,
and I
that's a lesson too.
it is. Like, I applied to probably like close to 100, 80 to 100 scholarships, and like I said, I only got 20 of them, so I got like 60 to 80 no's, and like most of those no's kind of came on the front end, not the back end. So it hurts. Like even when you're applying scholarships or an internship, if you're still in school or trying to get your first job, like it,
Yeah.
but you just gotta keep going. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, you're right. It is a numbers game. I mean, the same thing too with like looking for a job and everything. I mean, I know that like, oh, and then especially now because everything, a lot of it is like through AI. So if you don't have any like specific keywords in your resume
Yeah,
that they're looking for, they'll just go ahead and discard you. That's another reason why networking is so important because really it's still a lot of it is who you know.
so much so. Like I have a couple of interns that I've hired and I'm like mentoring them now. And like one intern that I had yesterday, we were having a conversation. She wants to work for a music company and she did a marketing project. Like she wants to work in marketing in music and she did a marketing project in school, like over this music company. And I'm like, that's great. Like post that on your LinkedIn. Like see that you
Yeah,
have a portfolio, like share that because people don't know what they don't know. So you have to make sure that
exactly.
they do know. So I definitely encourage that with any student.
Yeah, no, no, no. It's definitely, I mean, I can understand how a lot of them are kind of hesitant at first, but the encouragement is so important and the fact that you are like being that kind of cheerleader and encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I try to do that too. But like I know some people are still like, "Ah." I mean,
Yeah.
even with what I do in the mortgage industry was like trying to get so many people on social media, like loan officers to educate. I'm like, listen, like you are someone that's been a veteran in that space for like 20 plus years, like they know what they're doing and talking about, but they're not used to putting themselves out there.
Mhm.
It's trying to convince them like, hey, we need your knowledge.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
For sure. And I know
so
it can be like
yeah,
super cringy at first, but like only one person likes, only one person interacts. Like that's someone that you impacted. Like imagine like going up to one person telling you that you look pretty during the day. That would make you feel
yeah,
so much better. It's kind of like the same thing. And I feel like we get lost in the numbers. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have any commas or K's behind me. That means nobody cares. And it's like,
yeah.
no, like, literally if 200 people came up to you in one day, were like, oh, you're so great, like you would have that would have made your day like times 1,000. So I feel like it's not just about the numbers, like it's also people in real life.
Yeah. And what I mean, you really are helping them out. Like, cause yeah, I was looking at your Instagram. I'm like, I love this that, there are several accounts out there that they do such a good job of just like speaking it in terms that would like make sense and like you said, simplify it. And I feel like you do such a good job at doing that because it can be when someone talks about financial literacy or like home ownership or mortgages or any of that, and people are like, like I'm not gonna be able to understand anything. So like the more that we can simplify it, the
Yeah.
better. So it doesn't seem so scary because I feel like it really is still very scary for people, like talking about money.
Yes, makes them uncomfortable, but like we all
Yeah.
want to know, but then nobody wants to say it.
I know, isn't that funny? Like
Yeah.
everybody's curious about it, but then yeah, people are scared to like ask questions or to talk about it. I know for me, that's been one of my biggest kind of blocks is the whole money thing.
How so?
Yeah. You know what? I had like this fear of success for so many years of like actually making money. Like if anything, I think because I grew up in a household where I got everything I wanted, like I was very fortunate and my dad made money, but like I also got to see a side of money going to a private school that just almost felt kind of yuck. Um,
Mm,
and so I think I equated if I made a lot of money, that mean I was like a yucky person. Like,
Interesting.
not, you know, yeah, like,
Yeah.
because I did unfortunately see a lot of like people that were making money not in the most ethical way, or they were just spending it in ways that I was like, I don't know if I want to be that person, but at the same time, like, I would like to be able to make money to be able to give back and travel and do good things with it. And now I see enough people that are doing really good things with it that it doesn't seem so gross to me like it did. But yeah, that's how I kind of looked at it.
Ah, I like
Oddly
that you
enough.
shared that though, because I feel like a lot of people don't get that perspective. So how have you felt like just internally overcoming that barrier? Because that's a lot.
Yeah, because I mean, my dad is a very generous person. I mean, he's a physician, he's made good money, and he's always been really generous. But like I said, I think just like I just saw more kind of bad things around it than I did good. And that just really, I feel like affected me, which I didn't realize that until like recently that that was like a thing. And usually, yeah, like I said, it's the opposite. It's people that didn't grow up with it that really want it because they feel like it's going to afford them things that they couldn't afford, you know, or have when they were younger, and they want their kids to provide for their kids, and I get all of that. But yeah,
Mhm.
it was to me it was a more it was like at a deeper level.
Ah, oh, that sounds like some very like interesting like therapist like psychology
Oh
uh,
yeah, believe me, like
work
been
through.
yeah, been going to therapy every week for the last year, really kind of like realizing a lot of things.
Yeah, I would say I feel like we all need to experience that because we all have some like money mind connection that we need to work through and try and understand. And I feel like just having money is a tool, right? Whether you have a lot of it,
Yeah.
little of it, whether you use it for good or for bad, like all it is a tool, and it's just up to you to actually get enough knowledge to try and understand how to use that tool. It's like if you have a
Yeah.
screwdriver, you don't know what to do with a screwdriver. You know, it's just in your hand, like so you got to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, a lot of people can resonate with the fact it's like hard to ask for the money because then it's like you feel like you're also being greedy, but you're not, like you just want to be paid for the value that you're giving too. So that's
Yeah.
it's a lot of that as well for me is the whole like my worth.
Yeah, and especially now as you're stepping out like an entrepreneurial venture where things are not as concrete, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to determine this is how much I'm worth. It's not like that's a standard salary level.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a tough one, I think on so many levels for so many people. But the
Yeah.
more we can have conversations about it, the more we can be open and honest about it, like the better. And that's why for me, I'm kind of like, you know, as like with the even with these podcasts, like I'm trying to be a little bit more vulnerable and open too, when I have the conversations as well.
Yeah, well, we all appreciate it because I found you on LinkedIn, and just the fact that you, as like an older person, would want to talk
Yeah,
to me. Like
yeah.
I don't think everybody wants to bridge that gap. So I can appreciate your vulnerability and the openness there. So thanks for having me again.
No, absolutely. Well, we'll go ahead and round this out. So if people want to reach out to you or work with you in some capacity or have you come speak, what's the best way that they can contact you?
Yeah, well, if you want to like speaking slash workshop engagements, you can send me an email, hello@collegecashcoach.com. And I am at College Cash Coach on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and then Nia Knows Finance on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh. You are good. You are such an awesome resource to so many. And that's why I want like you to spread your wealth even more. No pun
Thank
intended.
you.
All right. Thank you,
If you
Nia.
enjoyed this
Thank
episode
you,
and you're
Raquel.
between the ages of 18 and 24 and would like to be a featured guest, go to rock.vision. Until next week.